Hi, I'm Ian Lewis.
I'm Vinnie Blood.
And I'm Simon Scott.
And this is
Razer.
I want revenge! You can't make me look like a daft old... what? I'm not too sure. One hates to think about descriptions for Matilda, really. Stuff of nightmares! Oh, look at that! They've driven straight onto the Razer beak! And Razer know! That's Vinnie Blood there with a thumbs up. They know now they've got Onslaught. They can do with Onslaught exactly what they want. And that is to let them go, because they know they can come in and crash. There was an attack of the beak weapon. They've got Onslaught by the tyre, by the wheel, a crash. And Onslaught, well, the tyre slightly, only slightly shredded. And it looks to me as if they've got full power and momentum. Or have they? Razer again worrying and nagging, and they pace themselves magnificently in this Southern Annihilator to come strong at the end. Onslaught, well, we better have a go. Charging headlong at Razer. Do you know, I'm not too sure whether they've got full crushing ability or whether they have done throughout. The tyre now fully shredded, so the damage was done. Look at that, the tyre, which had been shredded in the earlier attack, seemed to be okay, but no, it wasn't. And that will be a major problem now for Onslaught's traction on the arena floor. Razer bumps and bashes. Again, almost tentative, though, with the claw. Almost as if they don't want yet to pierce the steel chassis and the covering armour of Onslaught. Onslaught away, beyond Matilda, beyond the flame, spurting out from the arena floor. They're the remnants of its tyres. Oh, what are they doing? What are they doing? Straight back into the CPZ, in comes Razer Onslaught on its side. And I mentioned beforehand, if it was flipped over, it could stream itself right, but not on its side. I don't think so. Against the arena wall, and Matilda pressurised and punctured by Razer. Oh dear, look at that. Matilda taking one on the shell. The rear of Matilda has never been quite seen like this before, and I have to say, thank goodness Matilda is on fire. Razer is destroying Matilda. There's the flame from Matilda. The tusks were raised. I think it was just a last sort of nervous spasm of Matilda. They're in major... Tildy, what's happened to you? Call on all your friends, the house robots. Kill a lot, do the gallant thing, take on Razer. Onslaught's long been forgotten. Matilda, kill a lot. You're a knight of the realm, sir. Get in, sir, and protect your Tildy. No, sir, no such fear. We'll let Tildy bear the brunt of the attack of Razer. Is there anything left of Matilda, I wonder? Onslaught, there's Sergeant Bash to have a jet. There's nothing left of Onslaught, I'm sure. And just when Matilda thought she was away, back come Razer. Down goes the pit. Go on, chuck Tildy down there. Get Matilda in the pit. Oh, Matilda, what's happened to you, dear? I think it's time you took a long rest, Matilda. Go on. Take a long convalescence, Matilda. Killalot, was Killalot nudging Matilda towards the pit there, everyone? I'm not too sure. The house robots seem to be teaming up with Razer against poor old Matilda. What's going on? Vinnie Blood and the Razer team have won this Southern Annihilator. Poor old Matilda, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. What on earth has happened to the darling of robot wars? Matilda, yes, I know, it's sad, isn't it? But she is our darling. Oh, Matilda, we will not waltz with you for a while, it would seem. On the flame pit again. Well, Onslaught, eventually, dead metal, doing the right thing by Matilda. Onslaught in the pit. Razer have won the Southern Annihilator. And now Sir Killalot can come in for revenge. You're a little bit too late, Knight of the Realm. But what's to happen to poor old Matilda from now on in the red pot? Taking one last lingering look. Will this be the last we ever see of Matilda, I wonder? Razer, strong enough to be our Southern survivors.
Right, so, well, a very, very warm welcome back, and it gives me great pleasure to be able to introduce two old friends of mine from many, many, many moons ago, and from the days of Robot Wars back to the late 90s and early 2000s. So
Yeah.
it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Simon Scott and Ian Lewis. Welcome, gents.
How you doing? How you doing there, Steve? God, it has been a long time, isn't it?
It has indeed, yes. But
some incredible experiences over the years, some amazing inventions, and Simon, we had a right blast doing all this stuff, haven't we?
We've had quite a journey, but it's at times.
Well, it's great. It's great to have you join us, guys. I'm really, really grateful. It's a fantastic experience for a lot of the kids who obviously grown up with the Robot Wars and obviously the iconic robot Razer. We've had which has been fantastic, a lot of questions from some of our club members who are quite keen about Robot Wars, and obviously Infinity from myself, and the iconic Robot Wars robot, which is Razer. So from Patricia and Tally, we've got Razer is a piece of art as well as an amazing killing robot. How did the design come around?
Quite a thing, wasn't it, really?
That was in the days of fax.
Yeah. Faxing little sketches backwards and forwards. I think the original design was really like a bulldog. We thought of, British bulldog. How can we get on the BBC? How can we kind of, get selected and get on there? We were desperate for any sort of ideas, weren't we? I do remember the bulldog one. What was the other?
That was it, because we were watching the very early series of Robot Wars Series 1 that we weren't in. So we were basing our idea on what we were seeing each week on TV. And I think it must have been, a few weeks.
We saw Mortis, didn't we? We saw some
wedges. What time they turned up. Gradually, as we were seeing machines on there, that we ended up. We thought that the axe robots were unreliable. They were getting a hit.
Pretty good.
Unreliable. Spinning discs weren't allowed at that time.
Yeah.
So quite quickly, this grab hold of idea came about. I'm just laughing at the faxes because we were both supposed to be working at the time, but we were doodling ideas, and that germ of Razer was coming out. I used to look forward to receiving a fax on a piece of A4, the latest doodle for me, and then I'd modify it and send it back.
Our recent generation may not know what faxes are.
Yeah.
It's sending pictures via a telephone line, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So originally, that idea of a jaw machine just got bigger and bigger. So we figured that, if you had a bulldog, it was pretty handy at biting, but you weren't going to readily get hold of other machines. So you needed something pretty big. So this big kind of plier or a big jaw machine sort of started to appear. And we figured high center of gravity, maybe we could make it look good. Slim it down a bit. I mean, do you remember in your house we made a huge thing at first? It was enormous, wasn't it?
Of the faxes and the doodles, Ian made the first cardboard shape, which actually was close to this, but it was twice the size. And he brought it round my house, and we looked at it, and I said, Ian, we'll never get it. It's 80 kilograms back in the day.
80 kilograms.
And I said, there's no way you're going to get that in the 80 kilos. But we had, I think by that time, we had a battery. We had
lead acid.
We had the drive motors, and I think we might have had the hydraulic pump by that point, by the time you had made the model. And literally, we cut the cardboard prototype down. We kept trimming cardboard off it until it was as small as we could get it and still fit the components in. That's why you see some bulges here under the armour, because it just ended up that compact. But that was the only way. I said Ian was hard to convince. I said, we've got to make it smaller. We have to. We'll never get it in because we were going to use 5mm steel plate is the main plate used throughout, because it does weigh.
Brilliant. So how would, second question, boys, how would the design of Razer evolve in future generations of the robot?
I think something that we were very tempted to do was, as more exotic materials came along, titanium.
Yeah.
And we were using quite a bit of titanium in the machine as we were developing it anyway. We developed it pretty much over 2 years, didn't we, of competition.
Yeah.
And we really favoured the arm, being made of tie. It would have been fantastic to have done that. Also, the drive motors, brushless, a lot of power, a lot of horsepower, of course, lithium batteries. I mean, the artistry side of the machine, what any thoughts on that, how it might have developed and become more crazy?
No, because I think shape-wise, we nailed it. Unless you were going to make a completely new one and use lighter materials, then upscale it. There's a chance that we could have actually made one, 30% bigger using more modern materials. But then it wouldn't be Razer. It'd be Razer 2 or Razer squared or whatever. This was toyed with when the weight limit did go up in the early days. We did and ah of just building the same thing again, slightly larger. But we kept with the original.
Brilliant.
There was one crazy idea, which might be quite an interesting one. There was just a certain sponsor we were looking at, trying to sort of placate an interest, and spray Razer bright orange. The whole thing bright orange, gloss orange.
No, I don't think it would work, could it? Apart from showing all the scratches and other bits and pieces.
That's the reason it wasn't painted.
Yeah.
Because we were watching how the judges were marking the early competitions, and scratched paintwork was classed as battle damage.
Exactly.
So that's hence the whole thing was kept raw.
Yeah, and obviously an absolutely iconic, robot. Okay. So next question from one of our club members: what is actually inside Razer? What's inside Razer?
Nothing.
Well, I remember the old motor controllers very well.
Very secret things.
So what drives the beak?
Yeah, hydraulics.
So we've got a 3-inch bore hydraulic ram in the very base of the machine, right at the very bottom. It's literally just above us, a few millimetres above ground level, which is there, runs the full length. Just a very straightforward principle. Then a 3-way exchanger valve system up in here, a hydraulic pump here, a smaller motorcycle starter motor there, because this is, we didn't have brushless technology in those days, so we used what we thought would work, and actually those starter motors work really well. Even if the motor turns to charcoal, it will still run. So it's a really basic, just a basic 2-way hydraulic system, but it was made out of scrap. These were all scrap parts that we found, because people who build robots today, they tend to source new componentry. But when we saw the ethos seemed to be make a robot out of odds and ends and what you can find lying about. So pretty much most of the materials in the original Razer, it was from the scrapyard. It was just scrap parts.
And really, we found with the design, it was quite useful because Simon really came from a hydraulics background. I came from pretty much an electronics background as well as mechanical, of course, Simon mechanical as well. So we both had the mechanical design capability, but we both had our little sort of speciality, mine being electronics as well, Simon being the hydraulic sort of background. And the machine, if you look at it on the left-hand side, it's got the hydraulics all down that side. And then on the right-hand side, you've got all the electronic drive on that side. So we could actually place the machine on the table and work on it between battles. We've got one side each. It's all worked quite well, really. It's really lucky, really.
I think actually the reason it ended up like that is that we had to keep the pipe runs from the hydraulic as short as possible. It's all to do with weight limit again. So hence why all the parts are as close together as they could be. So that's why you don't have hydraulics going from one side of the machine to the other. It's literally as compact as you can make it, and that's all. It's constantly weight. Weight was the big thing. How can we make this thing? But it's got to be in the weight limit because it's too heavy. They're not going to let us fight with it.
Quite. Question from me, boys. Question from me. Are you still using the 3QD motor controllers, or have you changed?
They did change. Yeah,
Because they were quite large, weren't they?
Yeah, they were pretty good for a while, but what they had, and you might have seen Razer do this as it went on, they had a kind of thermal shutdown, level shutdown. So what would happen, they'd heat up as the battle went on, and then you'd see Razer almost looking like it was running out of power. But what that was really was the 4QD was limiting itself gradually down to stop itself from burning out. And actually one day, I rebuilt a Razer in the garage. Do you remember when I plugged it in? And I jostled the plug in to test it. And this was Sunday evening, and we had to be there Tuesday, I think.
All right.
And it went bang, and the whole 4QD just blew up. So it just burnt it out, and we were in a bit of a fix, really, to be honest. I think 4QD did help us out, which was really good. But we ended up in the end changing to H-bridge MOSFET, which was part of the sort of other robot stuff that we did with Ming.
Yes.
When we worked with Ming, yeah, we had those speed controllers, and they're still in today. Actually, they work sort of pretty well. Really nice and speedy, aren't they?
Yeah, because the way that the motor controller side of things has moved on technology-wise now, a lot of my heavy robots, my entertainment robots, are all working off saber tooths. And the nice thing about it is that we can include Arduino control into them. So it makes them now semi-autonomous, which is great.
Wow.
Anyway, enough of me. Back to the questions from the kids. Okay. What's it like to control the robot and drive it around?
Right. Well,
so we had two guys here. Both of you are controllers, aren't you?
Yeah, both of us controlling it. So you go first. What was your experience like controlling it?
You've got a control on it at home, experimenting and testing it. That's easy. But when you're in battle, or well, actually not when you're in battle, before the battle, that was the worst time for me. When we turned the machine on, and it's left in the pod of Robot Wars behind those shutters, and you've got to walk upstairs up the galleries where we're gonna fight, and you're waiting. It's that anticipation is when you think, well, you don't know whether you've got what it takes to deliver. But as soon as they say 3, 2, 1, activate, then bang, you're in, and we're both just totally fluent. You become the two of us just become one with the machine, and you don't even have to think about it.
It was a lovely thing. We did a lot of external shows with Razer, and I sort of came from a background of radio controlled car racing, so like chassis design and custom build stuff. So to make something that handled was quite important, something that was so fluid, like a dancer. If you watch Razer's movements, it's very fluid. It spins, it goes round. And in a way, that's quite you can see some of the MMA fighters these days, they will spin, they will give like false moves and things like that and confuse the shape. And I think we actually, got the better of some of our opponents because they were just like, oh my God, what's this thing doing? It's spinning around, and suddenly it's on the bike. And what it was, we can almost control Razer with our eyes closed, couldn't we, in the end? It was so reliable and so beautifully fluid, very, very fluid movement.
So you were both controllers in that respect, weren't you? Because I think, Ian, you were the actual driver, and Si, you were on the beak, on the weapon.
Yeah, the arm. It's funny,
I'm sorry.
Call it beak, the head, whatever, but it was always the arm, which is strange, really, because there's kind of a face at the end. So why is it an arm? But arm comes from the early days of when we were constructing it mechanically. It just was the arm as it was being built. So
it became the self-writers as well, didn't it?
Yeah. So the crushing arm also operates through a lost motion system, operates these the self-writers. And that was a nightmare to build that, but we realised after series 2 that we were going to get tipped over, so we had to make the thing flip back on the wheels. But that was the hard way of doing it. There was a more easy way, but it wouldn't have looked as good. So it had to look good as well. So we did it the hardest way possible, but it looks the best, but mechanically it's just very, very difficult.
What about the story when we tested the self-writer and it went off bang?
It did go bang, didn't it? It fired part through the fence.
Yeah, we had a little old video camera, VHS recorder, and the machine was on its side, and it tried to come over and went bang, and there was this terrific bang, and Simon sort of went, oh, all bits have gone missing. We could hear stuff scattering around over the gardens, over the fence. And yeah, in 2 frames, you could see the spring washers come off the back mount and just explode past Simon's head. It sort of came just past here.
Oh, the joys of testing.
We tested the cable on a 1.5 ton trolley jack, and it couldn't snap the cable absolutely leaning on it. So that was getting at least 2 ton on the cable. But then Razer in the tests, Razer easily can exert more than that, and it just, you know, just burst it.
Off it went. Oh, fabulous. So, okay, next question, boys. What is the best and worst battle moments?
Oh, I suppose.
So, no, this is just Razer now, not Warhead. Just Razer.
Just Razer. I suppose for me, my best moment was the Second World Championships, when I realised we were getting the better of Drillzilla. Drillzilla was this really hard, tough, powerful, kind of processive walking machine. And it was very quick, and it had pushed everything out of the way, hadn't it? All day you'd hear this V8 thing like going around the arena. You know. And then I thought, well, oh, how are we going to take this thing on? This is
absolutely funniest thing, Drillzilla. I drilled it into you pre-fight. Do not let that thing get on Razer's side. If it gets on the side, because it had two large steel sort of rigid appendages coming out to corral you. And I said to him, I said, if that thing gets on the side, I said, we're done. You just whiz straight in the pit, and that's it. I said, you've got to either manoeuvre out of the way or keep the mouth end of Razer facing Drillzilla, so as if he comes towards us, he's going to ride up in there. And that's what we did. But it wasn't a give me at all. You know, that was heavy. I mean, it was, you know, 3 times the weight of us.
Yeah, it was 160. It was allowed to be, I think. Wow. But the worst. Sorry.
So that was this. So was that the best or the worst of your battle?
That was personally my favourite moment when I realised we were getting the better of him. I thought, wow, we can actually
win the World Championships.
We started to get hold of his feet and started to jam him, and I could see smoke starting to come out. And I got Simon into a really good spot, and he brought the old beat down, got a good bite on. Simon's got to be really ready, you know, with the beat just perfect to get hold and get in there, because hydraulics are quite slow. So
that was on his processive legs.
That's it, and he jammed it, didn't you?
Yeah, when we clamped them, he will burn a motor out, he just will.
20 horsepower. I think he was about 20 horsepower.
Yeah, and we managed to stop his processive legs moving. He kept flooring the throttle and eventually burnt out a drive motor.
The smoke coming out.
And it's that touch of smoke that comes out.
Yes, come on!
That gives us a win, because that's damage.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was limited to what we could do, because it was so thick, it was about that thick in plate. We weren't going to pierce it at all. We could only clamp him, so we had to do damage, and that was the only way to damage it, was to damage the internals through grabbing a moving component.
Wow. And so, guys, what, unfortunately, is the worst part or the worst moment within Robot Wars?
Well, yours is going to be, I'm going to add my best one, Steve.
Okay.
We know what the worst one's going to be. But my best one was the series of fights that was the Southern Annihilator.
Yeah.
And I believe it was only showed on TV once. And a lot of people missed it. And it was such a good series of battles. There was so much rough and tumble. We were lifted and flipped and rolled around the arena.
Gemini, wasn't it? And
I'm not sure. I know Behemoth was in it. And over Onslaught, over whatever.
Carousel.
Yeah. Attila the Drum.
Right.
Also, you'd have to find it. But that series of maybe 5 fights to the trophy for me was the best, because it was just so action packed. We'd come out from one fight, we'd have fans under Razer trying to cool it down, trying to recharge the batteries, cool the motors. Literally, the crew were radioing us to go back in for the next fight. It was so intense, and all the battles were just really thrilling. It was excellent TV.
It was good, actually.
Ah, fantastic. Special times, boys. Special times. So, okay then, Ian, what is the worst part? What's the worst part?
The worst moment was when Philippa Forrester didn't say hello to me when we were going down the corridor. It was so sad.
Yeah, what's the real one?
Sulking for a week.
Well, everybody knows it. It's a pussycat fight. Oh dear. It just got to me. I don't know what it was. I think it's kind of, Razer, I think by that point we've built up quite an attachment, or I certainly had, to the machine. I think Simon had as well. It's kind of like your best pet, your pet dog, And to see it in there just getting beaten and beaten and beaten. And I put the radio actually down in the end, because you used to be able to sort of steer across. And I figured maybe they sort of see that, and they just kept beating and beating and beating and beating the machine. And I just couldn't watch. So I walked off. And I just couldn't face it. It got to my kind of soul, really, didn't it? Oh, I think it's outside for an hour.
I think it was we weren't able to fight back through some tiny little electrical fault, which we found out after. It was just a tiny little switch. Just meant that we couldn't deliver, the fight that it would have been. So, but you have to take it on the chin. It's part of the rough and tumble of it. It was bad, but in actual fact, the damage was superficial. Really, we were quite lucky that the armour did it. I mean, the armour got ripped to pieces, but internally, it was really quite surprising to see how intact everything was.
And amazingly, actually, we had a rematch, and he beat us again. And it sort of turned a funny thing, because we became very, very good friends with the family, with what was the first name? And the lad's name? I can't quite remember, but the lad was really amazing.
Driver.
Alan Gribble, really incredible at model car racing. So he was really brilliant at controlling Pussycat. Really something. Yeah, really good.
So, Si, what is the worst one for you?
The worst one? Well, it's a kind of I say disappointment. My disappointment was the Series 5 final. That's a final that we won, but for me, I wanted a showier final. We were actually geared up to fight Hypnodisc. We were so close to having the Hypnodisc and Razer final that everyone wanted.
Yeah.
Hypnodisc made a silly mistake. I think got pushed down the pit.
Yeah.
And then Bigger Brother came through. But for me, it was an anti-climax fight. So the fight could have been better in the end. He was goading us. He had some sort of drive issues. I think we clamped down on his armour. His drive chain had gone tight. He couldn't quite manoeuvre, so he just went over by the pit and was goading us to go over near the pit. You wouldn't go over near the pit, and it just ended up a stalemate sort of thing in the end.
I know what that was. I think we wanted to win the big trophy, the grand trophy, at some point. And I think we fell out of sync with that, Simon and I, a little bit, because the bravado of Razer's performances, I knew, was causing the machine to age very quickly through its rounds in previous times. And the machine would some point would fail. There'd be some sort of unreliability. So I said to Simon, no, the machine's got to cruise through all 8 rounds to make it. And even the final, the bravado has got to be just pulled back a bit. And it was a difficult thing to do because Razer is all about the performance and all that. But Simon, I think, although he didn't like it, he was good enough that he kind of was like, well, yeah, I can see where this is going. It's fair enough. The machine's going to make that longevity.
Because I was yelling at you because you wouldn't go after Bigger Brother. I was yelling at him. Yeah. Go and buy Killalong. Or something. Because he's driving. I can do this on the arm, right? But I've got to be near something to buy. I was yelling, go and get Killalong. And he was like, no, it's too risky. too risky. We could lose. Something could kill a lot of pushers in the pit. So it was that for Ian, it was the fear of losing through something simple, which I understand and respect. But it does happen in competition. Often competitions are extremely exciting right up to the final moment. But as I say, there was a degree of preservation there in order to get the trophy. But it would have been nice if it was more touch and go from a televisual perspective.
Feast.
Yes.
I think one of the most memorable ones, I think you guys seem to have a bit of a ding-dong between yourselves and the house robots. And there was quite an iconic one where you managed to sort of have a bit of a bite to the back end of Matilda. And that was that one went down in history, boys. That was a good one.
That's a good laugh, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, that was that not in the end?
Annihilator.
That was in the end of the Southern Annihilator.
All right.
Yeah. Classic. That there. Yeah, well worth a watch.
And the guys who were behind the scenes on the house robots as well, they were really great guys. We used to sort of go and chat to them and look at, pay some interest with the. So the house robots were quite rough kind of things, actually. When you looked inside them, sometimes it was a bit surprising that they worked, because they were sort of cobbled together. But they were pretty effective, weren't they? And the guys were well up for it. So we knew that it would all be taken in the best possible taste, and we just went for it. They were the back.
Wasn't it great? Fabulous times, boys. Fabulous times. Okay, so we got a question from Rowan to each of you. What was the first robot you ever built? What was the first robot you ever built?
I thought about this, actually. Yeah. Now, something occurred to me that happened quite some years ago. And I would say the closest thing was when I was 5 years old, I built a time machine in my front room. And this consisted of a couple of Tesco's boxes and a Co-op box and some crayons. And my granddad, being a clockmaker, had lots of clocks, old clocks that he'd given me. So I'd watched the film, the famous film
H.G.
Wells, the Amazing Time Machine, which is a very ornate-looking thing. And I thought, I'm going to make one of these. So I had this clock apart, and Mum said, "Blimey, you had that clock apart." And put it all back together and sort of seemed to know what you were doing. All the cogs were everywhere, and springs and everything. And then you attached it to your time machine, wound it up. And of course, what I'd done is I'd made the mechanism so the arms whoosh round like on the film. And I was sat there like, on the controls. Yeah. So I think that's probably the closest thing I can remember right back to.
That's brilliant.
I can remember in middle school drawing a dinosaur, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I drew one made of metal, so it was all made out of plate, all riveted together. And for me, it was a good drawing. It was about so sized, and it got pasted onto a big panel with all the other children's drawing. Anyway, there was a raffle or whatever, and someone else won it, and I got to take my drawing. So that was the end of my first robot drawing. I was definitely about that.
Yeah.
And then I think I used to make things. I wasn't a fan of Meccano, bizarrely, but I would find other pieces of metal lying around and bolt things together. Look, I remember making a little stand-up robot out of metal shapes that looked quite good. It just had two curved arms. I didn't do anything. It just stood. It was just out of metal. So they were, practical experiences. No, nothing to do with it. So I mean, the first real robot we made obviously was Razer. Yeah, that was like this is our first attempt.
That's it. But that was your sort of, there was something there in the background that inspired you. It's the same with the kids, that inspires them to get them engaged and involved and to make their own robots. And obviously that worked for you. A good question from Andrew. Did you digitally model Razer before making it? And if so, how? Well, we're talking back to the 90s now, so it was CAD. So if you didn't have the CAD then, boys, how did you do it?
So really, I mean, we completely did Razer old school. You know, way back then, I can remember Arthur Chilcott from Mortis, and the guys there, they were from the sort of university side, and I can remember SolidWorks being kind of handed out to the Robot Wars guys for free, which seemed amazing, really, from SolidWorks. You know, they were obviously seeding the market a bit, and I think that was late 90s. And I sort of took a bit of a passing interest in it, but it was kind of like, you know what? We've always done it with cardboard. Yeah. So cardboard was the big thing, wasn't it?
It was. Well, the things you have to have the imagination and the design of your potential robot in your head anyway. And then and for us, it was just easy to get it out on bits of paper on cardboard. Is just a great thing because you can sketch, you can make something full size. Particularly a shape like this. I mean, the Razer shape lends itself easily to be made out of cardboard construction, just as the chassis anyway, just to get scale. But there's nothing like when you make a simple model like that, it gives you a sense of perspective. Well, we realised that the original cardboard model would have been too big, to actually make the real thing, but you wouldn't have got that perspective if you brought a drawing round or a digital rendition of Razer in those days. We wouldn't have known what scale that would have to have been, and then we could have started making the machine actually too big, and we would have been in a whole pickle. And actually, we wouldn't have made Series 2.
It's kind of like, I mean, now I work as a CAD designer, so I'm designing machines and all this kind of thing. Let's go back into
that. As the phone goes off.
The miracle of technology.
Yeah, technology, where would we be without it? Really is quite incredible how the way the different things have developed. You know, in computing, in motor controlling, in so many different bits and pieces over the past 10, 20 years, boys, it's totally different, you know. So we've got one question. Myra Wilson, who I'm not sure if you remember her, she was actually one of the judges on Robot Wars. In fact, she's one of my colleagues at the university, and she's obviously involved in intelligent robotics and artificial intelligence, etc., etc. And Myra has actually not only sent her regards, but she also comes back with a question for you boys. And she's come back and says, "So, what did you think of the judges' decisions?"
You know, they were pretty good. I always said that whatever the judges decided, I'd pretty much go for. So I'd go in there, give it 110% if you can. I know it seems impossible, but you can go in there, you give it absolutely everything, and then go with what the judges say. We did run into a bit of trouble with that later on, actually, within the team, quite famously. And it was, I think it's one of those things you just got to rely on. You've got to say to yourself, I'm going to put that stake in the ground and then go from that point there, so that I've got no regrets either way. And the only one decision that sort of sticks out for me is when we were against Tornado, they had a big rotor on the front, and they had a little motor that was driving it, and we sort of destroyed the rotor and pulled that motor out. And the judges, it was a real 50-50 sort of split. They came into the arena and they looked at the damage of the two machines, and they thought the motor was the same size as one of our back wheels. They thought one of our back wheels had come off. So that was the only time that I thought they really kind of got it wrong.
They did. I think they did admit that was the pivotal thing.
Yeah.
But you were marked down because you lost a wheel, or we didn't lose a wheel. But it's just one of those. But luckily, that particular fight wasn't in, shall we say, one of the more serious competitions. It wasn't anything to do with a major trophy as such, was it? So so our progression, we didn't lose out on any progression towards a world championship or a series finale.
I think it was just that we were so competitive with Tornado then, and thankfully so, it was a fantastic time. I actually met Andrew, not so long ago, actually, and had a really good chat with him. We became good friends. It's always the same, isn't it? Great rivals become great friends. Because the thing is, if you're going to step up to that mark, you need somebody who's willing to step up there as well and challenge you as well, so that you can drive on and drive on and drive on to greater heights. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of become a bit stale, I think.
Well, talking of that sort of development and side of things, obviously you guys are incredibly talented. The iconic robot that is Razer. You then moved on to the BattleBot side of things with Warhead. But I think that's enough information for another sort of chat at some later stage, because that is a whole chapter in itself, and quite an exciting one. So really, guys, I just want to say thank you for answering all these wonderful questions. I really, really appreciate it. And for us, myself personally, the experience that we all had together, taking the robots out, and for me, one of the exciting ones was when we used to put all the robots into the arena at the end of the day, and you just used to have a melee and see which one was standing at the end of the day, which was just great fun. So I just personally want to thank you ever so much for involving me, my son, and a whole load of other people. And we'll look forward to having a possible interview about Warhead at a future stage.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Big round of applause. Razer!